Hello and welcome back to Speed Demon Painting. The November releases from Warcradle Studios were announced, and Union players definitely have something to be happy about because it is largely their troops that are mobilizing this month. This month sees the release of both the Union for Armoured Clash with both their one-player faction battle group starter set and their introductory set, but it also sees the Senator Battle Fleet set coming in for Dystopian Wars. Now, the Union is the new kid on the block for Armoured Clash, and it is the third faction that is being released to the land game, which is a 10mm war game if you're not familiar with it yet. The first release for any faction pretty much is the Union Faction Battle Group set, or the Faction Battle Group set starter set. This one comes with pretty much everything you need to get started with the full gaming experience, where you get your dice, rulebook, the templates, the cards, the whole shebang, including of course a large force for a Union. If, however, you like to start out in a more modest fashion, you can always pick up an introductory set, which is a much smaller set, which tends to come with mostly the plastics and not with a big resin landship, which I'll be talking about in a bit. Now, for the Union, it seems that their core is made up of these Federal Trooper platoons, which are, well, the basic riflemen that you perhaps know of from Wild West Exodus. That was a game where they had them in 35mm format as well. But the cool thing about these is that in this box there comes in grand total 6 bases of these infantrymen, and to these infantry units it seems that you can attach some additional units such as rocket pod carrying troops, Gatling gun equipped fire teams, or UR-31E automata. And if you're unfamiliar with those, these are the UR-31E automata, as we can find them in the Wild West Exodus game, which are these Tesla bots, sometimes referred to as, that can either be close combat units that you can attach to your force, or they can come equipped with these rifles as well, and I do think the box art actually depicts them with the additional rifles, so I'm curious to see how that's going to turn out in the game. Similarly, from Wild West Exodus, we know these models. These are the 35mm version of the fire teams, and these are the ones that have the Gatling guns, of course, and then you've got the rocket-equipped ones in the back here, and it seems that you can, well, either attach them to your riflemen, or maybe they will act as sort of double activation units in the game. That remains to be seen when we get our hands on the Orbat. You can also make these units out of the infantry sprues, well, the light sprues. They're called the pacifier infantry, the heavy infantry platoon, I should say. And these are sort of more your line breaker units, which are very devastating in close range and are great for clearing out buildings and such. These are also the units that are described as being the Talon assault forces. Some of you may know the pacifier assault rule from the Union in Dystopian Wars. Well, these are them. And fans of the Dystopian Age universe will know them from Wild West Exodus as well, where you could get them in 35mm, and they really made a nice transition to the 10mm game, if you ask me. Still very detailed, very easy to identify what they are, but yeah, a lot quicker to paint up than these larger, more intricate models. For the Cavalry, it seems the Union is using these iron horses, which are these sort of jet bikes, also seen in Wild West Exodus, that zoom across the table and that carry an elite soldier from the Union on them, with a bunch of Gatling guns installed on the side to run down the enemy. But you can also get them in the Blazer Heavy Cavalry version, which is, yeah, very similar design, but with a different front that has even more Gatling guns installed, so I'm pretty sure that these will be eating enemy infantry units alive in gameplay. As cool as the infantry is, though, one of the key models in your force, especially in that faction starter set, is going to be your big resin landship. And for the Union, this is the coolest model ever. This is the Lakota Heavy Rail, which comes with these smaller carriages. And in an interview with On Tabletop, I heard Chris talking about these carriages being magnetized to each other, so I can see what he means now. They have these round points to connect them, and I can see if you insert insert some magnets in there, you can actually have them sort of swivel around and move as a snake on the battlefield. And the cool thing about it is these are of course not trains that are locked to any railway system, because that would make them pretty useless in game. These are actually sort of hovercrafts, these sort of skimming rails that use repulsion technology to stay off the ground and then compact with a bunch of different guns on them, and are even able to ferry troops into battle as well, which is a very, very cool design. People who play Wild West Exodus know that this is probably one of the most rare models out there, which was the old resin landship, and I'm pretty stoked to see it coming back in the 10mm game format. And then the final model that was showcased, because they're only showing off painted models it seems, and the team has done a brilliant job with these, but it is the Hotchkiss revolving cannon, which is this sort of Gatling cannon crewed by 2 crew members it seems, because there seems to be one hiding in the back here as well, which is more your sort of static artillery as well, which is something that the Union has. But I can imagine that the range is perhaps not as far as some of the Drake field guns, for instance, on the Crown. At least I expect it won't be when the rules actually drop. Speaking of rules, in the next video I'll be making will actually be a deep dive into one of the factions, and I think I will be starting off with the Crown first to see what their rules are like, how to best start them, how they play in game and everything. So if you're looking forward to that video, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, and if you like this news video as well, give it a thumbs up. That really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, if you are starting with the faction starter set, you get all of the little knickknacks to play the game as well, including the different tokens, the mission counters, the rulers, the dice, but also the full rulebook and a command and conquest deck, so you can dive into the game completely. And as a neat little extra, the one-player starter sets have always included some of these terrain bits as well, so you get a couple of sprues, which will likely be 2 of each version, to make some dystopian industrial modular terrain set as well, so you have some buildings to fight over too. Now typically these one-player starter sets have the big resin landship, which is of course logical, that one is here at the top, but then it also comes with 4 sprues, which are the light sprues, which mostly makes the infantry of your force, and then you also have a heavy sprue that makes the vehicles. Judging from the contents, this is 12 times bases for Federal Trooper platoons, 8 times the Pacifier Heavy Infantry platoon, 8 of these revolving cannons that were just showcased, but then 4 times the Federal Gatling Fire Team, and 4 times the Federal Rocket Fire Team, and 4 times the UR-31 ARC Trooper Fire Team, which to me indicates that they are using the one with the rifles and not the ones with the shield. I think those are the units that he can make with the infantry sprue, because traditionally the Iron Horse Cavalry, or the cavalry units in general, are found on any of the heavy sprues, and the heavy sprues of course make Ironhide transports, which we know from Wild West Exodus as well, but you can also build them as lamplighter flame trucks. They are not depicted in this blog yet, neither are the Ironhide transports by the way, but you're also getting 4 Rolling Thunder main battle tanks, which can also be built as Kodiak artillery tanks, which is really, really cool, and Reaper arc tanks as well. Now the box content also mentions the UR-45 heavy mechs, and may also be built as UR-45E arc mechs, and well, these have also been showcased from Wild West Exodus, because if you look at the box art, which I will bring up in a bit, there's a mech that looks surprisingly a lot like this thing that Nikola Tesla is riding himself in. This is his legendary version, where he has his own custom battle strider, and yeah, it seems to be closer to this vehicle. The box also mentions 10 UR-31E Iron Eagle Cavalry, so perhaps the Iron Horse Cavalry are part of the infantry sprue, and it is the Iron Eagle Cavalry that is going to be used for the heavy sprue as well, because they also still mention more artillery pieces for Armstrong heavy artillery, which may also be built as Moab thermobaric mortars, and that name just makes me giddy. And in case you do not know what Iron Eagles are, these are them. They also come in Wild West Exodus, and these are the Tesla bots that are actually enclosed on sort of an iron horse looking thing. But yeah, they also come with some arc weaponry in the front, and those are really cool models that we've seen depicted in some of the artwork in the rulebook as well. So yeah, it stands to reason that they would be included in this release. Because even though some of the models aren't mentioned here yet, remember that big stumpy bot that I was talking about? That looks surprisingly a lot like this thing depicted here on the artwork as well. They've also got some of the aircraft on there, but for a fact we know that these will not be included. And you get some of these really cool commanders to go along with them too. You also see some of the tanks. I'm guessing the one at the back here is going to be that artillery tank, because it doesn't seem to have an arc weapon on it. And this will be your Rolling Thunder main battle tank with an iron hide depicted all the way in the back here. But like I said at the start of the video, you can also go for the introductory set that is also found on here. The introductory set is 2 sprues of the infantry, and you can actually see the resin parts of the commander depicted here, because the Federal Trooper platoon comes with this cool little guy that we also know from Wild West Exodus with his commander in there. He's the guy calling down artillery pieces. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, I believe this is Bernard Hopkins, but don't quote me on that one, which can be found in Wild West Exodus in 35mm scale. And this is Odysseus Grant, the Union general that got incredibly scarred and burned during the Ore War, but who is still fighting on and is a very fervent and expansionist sort of commander within the Union force, which is really cool to see him make his way to the 10mm tabletop as well. So yeah, those are the fancy new resin parts that will come included in this set, so you have a bit of an expansion to your troopers. But apart from that, the Hodgkins revolving cannon is showed again, the Iron Horse Cavalry, the Blazers, and the Pacifier Heavy Infantry platoon. You will also get a separate booklet with Quick Start rule. I've already got a review up from those Quick Start rules, so if you want to know and get a feel for the game, you can check out that video as well. But you're also getting your tokens and your gaming aids, such as the turn template, the different range rulers, and the objective tokens. And well, you get 2 sprues of the light infantry sprue and the heavy tank sprue, which makes for pretty much half of the troops that you can find in the one-player starter set. But this one is, of course, a much easier to afford starting point, and it's perhaps not bad to start this way and get your first couple of games in with some simplified rules and then expand them, because the neat thing is that it is a very modular rule system that you can expand to be the full standard gameplay rather easily. And like I said at the start of the video, this is a double release for Dystopian Wars, because the Union also gets some new plastics, it seems, with the Senator Battle Fleet set. There used to be some Mass 3 ships in there, cruisers that can be taken as flagships, but also to fill out the rest of your fleet. And it seems that they are now making it to the tabletop to Dystopian Wars, where you're getting 3 sprues from the look of it, with 1 sprue being able to make one of these larger Mass 3 battle cruisers, 2 Farragut ships to go along with it as well, and then 1 Acron and a new sort of mini Acron to go along with it, which is an aerial escort token for the Union. That's not the only thing though, you're also getting some Talon Assault tokens, and you're getting your Ground Assault tokens for the first time, the unique Ground Assault tokens for the Union, which is the Lakota land train that we just saw, which is really cool. And in addition to that, you also get some smaller submarines. I believe these are the Puritan Automata. The first build that you can make with it are the Senator long-range command cruisers. These are the flagship options that I've mentioned. They seem to come equipped with 2 of the new heavy Gatling guns, which we had not seen before, and then the smaller Gatling guns, the regular Gatling guns I should say, are on the flank on each side. And it also comes with a shield generator to offer it some extra protection. If I'm not mistaken, these are fielded in units of 2 if you take them as a flagship option. Of course, these days the Orbats do not have the unreleased options in them yet because it was causing a bit too much confusion for new players. But veterans of the game of a certain vintage will remember these things being in one of the older Orbats of the game. Although this one was never mentioned, which is the Midway Long-Range Landing Ship. This is a new entry, really cool one that still comes with one heavy gun battery in the front and then two smaller gun batteries or regular gun batteries on each side, but it's mostly the back bit of it that is very interesting because it comes with this cool landing ship array where it can unleash one of those land trains onto any landing missions that are yet to be released for Dystopian Wars, but yeah, they will be here soon. If you missed that tidbit of information, the next campaign book is actually going to tell you how you can link up your games of Armoured Clash with Dystopian Wars. You can of course still play them as two separate games, you do not have to feel forced to buy into one of the other, but it's going to be really cool because all of the boxes are coming with big maps these days, and making the most use out of them is going to be, well, playing both at land and at sea, so that's why this is such a cool release, such a cool double release. The other option is the Philadelphia Long Range Arc Cruiser, and personally, I'm really happy to finally see some a new sprue, or rather a new release that has more of these Tesla cannons on them, and also comes with these Tesla generators in plastic, because that means that people who really like the Dead Presidents are going to have an easier time to create these ships. And also, if you want to make the Mexico or some of the other cool variants of ships, this is going to be a must-buy if you want to convert some of your ships into them. But yeah, Pipeworks and Tesla are still representing in this setting, but if you do not want to run any of them, you can get the Wisconsin Long Range Assault Ship. Yay for the people over at Wisconsin, and they come with the Talon Assault tokens along with gun batteries on the left, and from the looks of it, a fair bit more broadside firepower compared to some of the other entries, whilst still coming in with that protection from the shield generator, so that one seems like a fun entry as well. That's not all though, because you can still make even more variants out of them. These are the Nashville Long Range Support Ships. Clearly not designed to do any landship stuff, but more of a support option. I'm not sure if it's going to be that they can re-equip or re-arm ships with something, but yeah, we'll see when the Orbat drops. Same for the Chicago Long Range Cruiser, if I'm not mistaken. This is the non-command version of the first one that we saw of the Senator class, but this one comes equipped with traditional gun batteries, although the layout perhaps is a bit more difficult to steer compared to some of the other variants we've had, which had more of a forward-facing configuration. But yeah, perhaps you'll be able to make multiple builds out of this, because, well, you're getting 3 in a sprue, and with this many build options, that you could even get this one multiple times, I reckon, and still have a good amount of variations within your ships. And this also seems to solidify the Union as a faction for people who like big boats and cannot lie about it. The next up we have the Puritan Submarine Automata. Back in the old Orbats, like I said, that had some previews in it. These were sort of suicide boats that basically were able to blow up in the vicinity of other ships to automatically make them take catastrophic hits. So yeah, that can be quite devastating, especially if they get the new deep dive rules. They'll be quite slow, but they'll be quite frustrating that you're having to waste shots on something that is essentially a suicide drone, yeah. So that's one of the mass ones that you'll find in here. The other one is of course the Acron class Sentry Rotor. Acrons used to be able to be used as both mass 1 ships as their own entry, but could also be attached to units as an aerial attachment. But it seems like you will be getting separate aerial escorts, regular escort tokens really, for the Unions as well with this sprue, so it's nice to see that there's some variance in there. And then finally you're also getting 6 of these Farragut class frigates. Now veteran Union players will probably already be drowning in these, but it's good that they are included on these sprues as well if you're just using these as your first purchases, because with the amount of variants you can make for the Mass 3 cruisers, it probably isn't the worst starting point to just get a couple of these sprues and get cracking with. The Talon SRS token is also included because of the Wisconsin variant that you can make, and like I said, the Lakota SRS tokens, very nice little tie-in with the release we're seeing from Armoured Clash, and very exciting to see that you're going to be able to sort of combine your games in one. It's really, really cool. And the box content says that you make 1 Senator long-range command cruiser and then 2 Midway long-range landing ships, but those can be built as all of the variants. This can pretty much say that you're getting 3 of them, but I suppose the Senator long-range command cruiser is now just a single entry then in the new Orbat. These things are always subject to change, which is why Warcradle Studio doesn't use printed books, only to then, you know, say like, oh, we have to change everything and it's now obsolete. That's not something this company does. That's what another big gaming brand does. But yeah, that was it for this month. Very exciting month again if you're a Union player, and I hope this is a blueprint actually for the releases coming forwards, because well, we're having a look at the Enlightened pretty soon. I'm not entirely sure what their landing vessels are, if they had any specialists for them, but if they sort of fill in those gaps along the way as well with the Dystopian Wars releases, that would be really, really cool. There was also somebody on Discord asking if there were any roadmaps for Dystopian Wars. I think that could really, really help for some people. You don't necessarily have to say which factions are released, but there are still some factions that do not have landing vessels yet. I'm thinking, for instance, Imperium with the Germans do not have, or rather the Prussians, I should say, do not have their landing vessels yet. So yeah, perhaps something like that is coming along the way. It has been a while since we've seen any of these Imperium releases, for instance, and yeah, Imperium players like me are really not used to that, so it's sort of having to get some withdrawal symptoms from those. Anyway, that was it for me for today. I hope you like this release as well. Let me know in the comments if you do and what you think about this, and I do hope to see you in the next video. Until then, bye!